This time we go back in time, not just because it's a retro review, but also because the model is of a historic machine. The shipping carton is branded with the American magazine Toy Trucker and Contractor, and the model is the Bucyrus steam shovel.
Let's weigh it up.
The shipping package goes straight onto the weighbridge and it's £5 4 ounces, which is nearly 2.4 kilograms. We gently ease out the contents of the shipping carton, and we see the box is in an aged style. There's a picture of the model, and the machine was made by the Bucyrus company. Turning the box around, we see a little bit more detail, and the real machine was used to build the Panama Canal around 120 years ago. Moving to the bottom of the box, the model was made as a private label for Toy Trucker and Contractor, and it was produced by TWH Collectibles. Let's open up the box and see what's inside. And we see there's a usual pair of trays. But first up is some documentation, and we'll take a look at that in a moment. Lifting the lid, we can see the model sitting in the tray, and it is protected by plastic sheets. The documentation includes this nicely printed little brochure, and it's all about the real machine, and it gives the history, and there are some nice photographs. And it's fitting that the model comes with documentation like this to tell the story of the real machine. Also included is a warning not to use the model on a real live model railway, and there's an instruction sheet which is best described as minimalistic. However, TWH did provide more comprehensive instructions, and you can find these on the Cranes Etc. website by going to the reviews page, selecting TWH Collectibles, going to model 021, and scrolling down to the bottom of the page. And then if you click that, a PDF page loads, and these instructions are of an appropriate quality for the model. We will put the model into a display mode, and the first thing to do is to mount the steam shovel onto the included track, and it's a very easy and straightforward fit. We then need to make a pinned connection for the main support to the boom, and with that done we can then set the two stabilisers. There's one on each side. Replica timbers are included, and you swing out the stabiliser beam, and then you can screw down the pad. And this is nice to do because of the turning handle at the top. There's also a strut to fit, and this is a little bit more fiddly to fix. It's also more representative rather than actually strutting the outrigger beam. Once the beam is in place, you then fix the connection with another steel pin. There's some detail to add up on top, and that's the chimney. And there are some very fine gauge wire support struts. And these get carefully located into the top of the chimney and also into a hole in the roof. And there are 4 of them to fix. We move on to open up the back of the machine, and that gives us a roof and a landing. The roof is held up by 2 wire struts, and these are slightly more tricky to position, and it is easy to knock them out of position. There are 4 window flaps on the side of the model, and again you support these with very thin struts. The flaps stay up without them, but the struts make it look more realistic. And with all that done, the model assembly is complete.
Let's weigh it up again.
As usual, we check the weight of the model itself, and it comes in at just over £3 4 ounces, which is nearly 1.5 kilograms. The track has got decent looking rails, and there are replica timbers underneath. Moving to the main event, and the steam shovel is very detailed underneath. The rail wheels are nicely formed, and there are drive chains running to each bogie. Some of the gearing can also be seen, and at the rear you can see the coupling unit, which is removable. At the back you can see the riveted boiler, and there's also a firebox door. At the back there are other details such as this wheel and also a ladder. There's also the large coupler down below. A high point is the rendering of the Bucyrus name on the side of the body, and elsewhere you can see plenty of rivet head details. The detailing of the rail bogies is also really good. Moving to the front, and there are the replica timbers for the outriggers, and the outrigger structure is very nicely formed. In terms of detailing, the boom and dipper are a class apart. The casting captures the old style perfectly with rivet heads all over the place, and the gear wheels and chains all have that realistic look. At the top of the boom the detailing continues and there's a Bucyrus name, and the dipper itself is exceptionally good. Again, all of the rivet heads give a really authentic appearance. Looking inside you can see all the workings of the machine and also the control levers, and the turntable is also finely detailed. The roof is very nicely shaped, and the vent running along the top has a realistic opening. With the machine on its side you can see how the drive chains work, and it's nice to see some proper model engineering. The bogies have a degree of rotational movement, and another really excellent feature is that they have working suspension. And again, this is really high quality model engineering. The steam shovel rolls along smoothly just by pushing it, but you can also use the included key and then use the drive chain mechanism to move the model. And it's all strangely satisfying. Another interesting feature of the model is the working coupler. It locks into place and you can use the lever on the side to unlock it. Let's move to the digging end of things, and the first thing we can do is to rotate the boom on its turntable. This works really well and it has an excellent range of movement. You can also move the dipper handle in and out, and to do this you use the key about halfway up the boom. As you turn it you can see the gear wheels moving, and a toothed gear works on the dipper handle. It all feels very well engineered. Next we can raise and lower the dipper, and we use the included key through one of the open doors. This uses a chain instead of a rope, and it all works surprisingly well on the model. There's also a remote release for the flap on the dipper, and you can replicate the old manual way that this was done. You can close the dipper flap and it clips back into place. On each side of the body there are two large sliding doors which are very smooth. But as they say, that's not all. Another thing you can do with the model is to remove the bodywork. And to do that we reverse the assembly process that we saw earlier and take the chimney off, and take out all of the struts from the open windows. Once that's done we can lift up the whole machine and then get to the underside. The body is held in place by 8 screws, and we will just proceed to undo them, and then we can begin to lift the body off. The sliding doors are loose, so you have to be careful when you lift the body because they'll just drop out, and you also need to remove the pin from the tie that supports the boom structure. After that you can carefully ease the bodywork off, and you also have to remove the chains from the coal deck at the back. After a bit of manhandling you can get the bodywork off. Let's just reset the machine back onto the rails and then we'll take a close look. We'll begin by operating the boom rotation mechanism, so you can see clearly how it works, and it's amazing that it also includes a working piston drive. And the same engineering also applies to raising and lowering the dipper. You can also get a good look at the bank of control levers, and yes, you can move them all, which is another really nice touch. With the cover off it's easy to access another feature, and that's the opening coal door, and you can see that the coal was shovelled from the coal deck into the firebox of the boiler. Let's focus in on the detailing of the boiler, and it's extraordinary that this is inside the body and most people won't even see it. There's plenty of rivet details, and also lots of modelled pipework and valves. It's all first-class detailing. This is a wonderful model of a historic machine by TWH Collectibles, and it shows what great stuff they were producing when it was reviewed in 2008. The detailing and functionality is top-notch, and as at the date of this review you can still buy this model at a really good price, and a link to it is in the description below. Overall, this is one of the best models seen by Cranes etc, and of course it is excellent.